Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering Write a Book for Me. You might be really struggling with the idea of writing a book yourself, and I'm happy to offer some guidance to make this journey a little bit easier for you. By the end of this video, you will learn all about the power of book ghostwriting and how transformative and collaborative it can be to work with a professional in telling your story. Stay tuned until the end of the video for a free opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. This video is all about getting help in writing your book, and the first lesson and message I want to share with you is that it's possible. There are people out there, there are professionals that are there just for you to be able to help you bring your story forward. I've been privileged and lucky enough to work in this space for the last 6 years as a book ghostwriter, and I've helped 30 authors to bring their stories forward to get their books published and to take the next step in their journeys. And it's been such an awesome process. It's been so inspiring, exciting to be able to collaborate and work with authors. And when we first start talking, they're stuck. They're stuck. They don't know how to begin. I go back to one of the adhere projects I worked on. It was with a man named Rich. And Rich had this really thoughtful and meaningful family story to tell. And I worked on the project with another ghostwriter, Isabella. And when we first met with Rich, he had an entire wall of Post-it notes on the back of his office. And they were all color-coded, and they had different perspectives and insights and stories attached to them. And it was stunning. He'd spent so many years bringing these stories and ideas together, and they were just on this Post-it note wall. They were stuck, and he didn't know how to continue forward. He didn't know what that process looked like. And it was so powerful to be able to help him through that journey and get him to a place to be able to bring his book forward. And you could tell week by week, meeting by meeting, his mood would lift just a little bit, because it was a heavy project. It was a heavy lift for him. And you could see the healing. You could see that this process had really helped him deep, deep down. And it was so special to be a part of that. I look at the collaboration involved in a process like that, and I think about how much he was struggling when he was working on his own. How much he was struggling when he was hitting those walls. How he didn't know if the book was even going to be possible. To go from the before to the after, it makes it all worth it. It makes it all the struggle worth it. It makes, the ups and downs, it makes everything worth it to be able to see that. But working with the ghostwriter is really all about collaboration. It's really all about working together. It's so easy to think of book writing as a lonely journey. And it can be lonely. It can be, you just sitting there at a computer, typing away, typing away, typing away. Book ghostwriting is really about collaboration. So when you think about getting help in writing your book, there's a collaborative answer here. This is all about collaboration and working together. A lot of times when I meet with authors for the first time, they're reticent. They're concerned that the process won't really be that collaborative, or that the outcomes won't really sound like them. That they're giving away something of themselves by working with somebody else. And I get it. I get it completely. As somebody who works independently and, really values being able to guide my own journey and story, it's a lot to be trusting your story and your most precious things, your secrets and your perspectives, with someone who you might not know that well. It can be a big leap. So it requires some trust. It's so awesome to see the flip side of it, to go from this lonely road of writing a book to turning it into a collaboration, to working together, to bring out the best in each other. And I feel like that's what this is really about. You can go from writing it alone and struggling, or you can feel empowered and bring out the best version of your story. And it's still yours. It's not like this idea that you're working with a ghostwriter and it's somehow less than. So many of the books in the bookstore today were written by ghostwriters or with the help of ghostwriters. If you go to the acknowledgments in any book and you look at who they thanked for the book process, literary agents, family and friends, publishers, there's always a lot of celebrity books will have these other people listed. The book doctor, the book helper, my editor. There's so many different ways to describe book ghostwriters that often aren't listed as book ghostwriter. So it can take many forms. It can feel like therapy sometimes. I'm not a therapist. I'm not trying to be a therapist. But it definitely skirts those boundaries sometimes where, you're having these deep conversations and trying to help the author through. So there's a balance there, but that process can take so many different forms, but trust is the centerpiece of those forms. Trust is the centerpiece of the collaboration, and you want to be able to build the collaboration on a lot of trust, a lot of deep, deep trust. At the same time, though, it's important to recognize that just by working with a ghostwriter alone isn't going to make the book great. It really requires your best input, your best effort, being vulnerable. It's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary to share the things that embarrassed you, that you're not proud of yourself for, the struggles, the downs that you faced, the times where you wanted to give up. We've all faced those points sometimes in our lives, and if you're writing a book, you're ultimately going to be writing it for people who have faced similar circumstances as you. Someone who maybe isn't as experienced as you, but is in the same field. Somebody who wants to know how you got out of the struggle they're facing. By you being vulnerable and you talking about the problems, not just the solutions and successes, but the problems, your book is going to be that much more powerful. You don't want to hold back. It's not to say that you're going to give away everything in the book. You want to definitely find a boundary of public-private. But at the same time, being vulnerable is going to help you tell the best story. In the 1980s, Rolling Stones lead singer Mick Jagger started writing a book with a book ghostwriter. And it was kind of a disjointed process. The ghostwriter didn't have a lot of face time with Mick. But at the same time, here's one of the most interesting people and one of the most famous people in the world writing a book. It should be great, right? It should be really interesting. Well, this book was boring and it got shelved. It never actually got published because without that collaboration, without the right vulnerability, even Mick Jagger can write a boring book. So can you, so can me, so can anybody else. If you're not vulnerable and you're not willing to, open yourself up to that, it's really going to be tough to connect the right way with readers. So let me share a little bit about the ghostwriting process. When I start working with an author, the first thing we focus on is foundation work. We focus on building out the book hook, the outline, the audience, really getting that foundation in order. When you bake a cake or when you build a house, you focus on the foundation, you focus on the structure. You make it as strong as you can, and then you build out from there. Book writing is similar, at least efficient book writing. After that's complete, once you have your outline in place, you know exactly what you want to say, then you can start building out the chapters. And I start doing that by having weekly conversations. We talk through different areas of the book, different chapter topics, and then I take that conversation, turn it into automatic text through transcription tools, and then shape that into chapters. And little by little, week by week, we turn this into a draft. With the projects I work on, typically it takes 3 to 6 months or 12 to 24 hours of author time in order to get a book into draft shape. Now, obviously, there's books that take longer. There's some projects that can take years, depending on research and depending on the scope of the work involved. But at the same time, 3 to 6 months is pretty typical. The authors I work with can then take the book, the draft that we turn into a book, and turn that into something. Turn that into opportunity. Turn that into a bucket list item, legacy project, something that they use to attract and retain clients. Something that they use to build their speaking platform, and become a public speaker. It's really about taking the next step in your journey. Taking that next step is so important. And that book is the force and the impact to be able to take that next step. There's so much more I want to say about book ghostwriting and the ghostwriting process and bringing a book forward, but I'd love to be able to talk one-on-one and share those stories to you directly. If you want to talk further, head to my website. It's goodghostwriter.com. You can click the link below. And there you can schedule a one-on-one strategy call with me. I'd love to learn more about your book and how I might be able to help point you in the right direction. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.